Daughter Disney podcast. I'm here with my very lovely mother, sitting across from me.
Hello.
Hello. You want to introduce yourself?
I'm Janette.
Yeah, and welcome back, everyone. I also want to wish everyone a happy July 4th if you live in America. Tomorrow is July 4th. The podcast will be out on July 3rd today. But yeah, happy July 4th, Independence Day, if you are celebrating tomorrow. So today we're going to be doing a overall review of the Disney 100 exhibition that is currently on at the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I just want to note that this is not sponsored. We paid for our own tickets. No one's asking us to do a podcast. This is just a fun little review of the Disney 100 exhibit, just because we went and we just, we love Disney. We just kind of wanted to talk about it a little bit. But we had a really great time. So the Disney 100 exhibit will be currently at the Franklin Institute running from February 18th, so opened a few months ago, up until August 27th. Mm-hmm. So as of recording this podcast, there is another about 2 months basically to go. If you hear noise, it's because we have the door open, so there's birds outside. My cat is also walking around as well, making noise. So don't mind all the noise in the background. So we're just going to give our overall review. So yeah, what did you think of it, Mom?
Well, right off the bat, I was impressed. I thought they did an excellent job. Sometimes you go to see these exhibits and they're small and they don't have that much information. It's kind of okay. You go through and it's, nothing big. I was impressed with the way they did it. I thought it was a lot of information, really well presented, succinctly and beautifully. It's similar to when we went to the museum in California, the Disney Museum in California. Lots of information and very pleasant to enjoy.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I feel like we also, honestly, we went on a really good day because when we went, it wasn't really too crowded, even though we did go on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, so I expected a summer Saturday afternoon that there'd be a ton of people.
Yeah, but it really wasn't that crowded when we went, at least. So it was really nice just to walk through and to see how they set it up. It is funny because the Franklin Institute is a science-based museum, so it's kind of funny they have these rolling exhibitions that they do at the Franklin Institute. Well, it's
also a children's museum. I forgot how much of a children's museum it was till we went there. I wouldn't say it's necessarily
children's museum, but it's very
a lot
much
of
like
touchy-feely stuff.
It's very hands-on.
So it's more geared towards children, but this exhibit is not. It's for everybody. It was not just geared with touchy-feely Disney information, whatever. It was actually geared from anybody who was actually wanted to see it. I think that's why they sell nighttime, just limited tickets just to go see that exhibit. Yeah, so that adults who don't want to pay for the whole museum can just go in and look at the exhibit and stuff. I thought it was very well done.
Sure. Yeah, so just to do a little bit of what the layout looks like. We won't give, I guess, too many spoilers, but yeah, because if you want to go see it, right. it's kind of fun to see it for the first time yourself. And also, I'll be putting some photos of some of the things that we talk about on the screen as we talk about them. I took a lot of photos and videos, so make sure you're following us on our Instagram, Spaceship Earth Design. I'll have that also linked below as well, and I will be sharing some more photos and reels over the coming months of the things that we saw at the exhibit. But there are lots of different rooms. I would say it started off chronologically at first. Like, you walk into the first room and it's very much like the Disney origins. Like, where did it all start? Where did Walt Disney start with the animation studio, with its ideas, with the first characters, with Oswald the Rabbit, how he ended up creating Mickey Mouse and everything. And then it's after that it kind of starts to go a bit more loosey-goosey, more into like categories, because then you get into the early princesses, some of the earlier movies. But then by the third room, they had the dress from Cruella from the 2019 movie. Right. In the third room, and they kind of go back and forth from there. So yeah, so after that, it kind of goes a bit more loosey-goosey with the
it kind of went towards as you said, topics as opposed to chronological. Yeah. In the beginning, you get a lot of the history of, which is amazing to see this man's brain and how it worked and how he started and how persistent he was to get it done, even through all the pitfalls. But then it sort of does topics as it jumps from certain topics about artwork or movies or costumes.
I would say too, it was also categorized by, again, like movies were first, of course. Then it had a whole section on music about, the writing of the music, the sound, things like that. Then we started to get more into the parks and the technology in the parks in itself. Right. So you got a lot of that type of history and a lot of that background. I forget what it ended on. It was like Disney World, like your Disney World or something like that.
Yes, how we see it, how the new stuff has happened with the animatronics and all the stuff that goes on in there.
And how people have like kind of taken Disney into their own and like started doing, like, for instance, making a Disney podcast because we just love Disney. Right. So that was really lovely.
It was a very nice flow. It wasn't it wasn't like you were saying, oh my God, what should I do now? Or, okay, we don't want to see this, let's keep going. It was a very nice flow.
Yeah, with a lot of information and a lot of, cool Disney artifacts, drawings, concept art. They actually had a lot of costumes as well, prop pieces.
Even just the walking in, they give you a little intro on screen with Walt Disney and stuff. I give him credit for starting that right off with him. It's not, this all is because of him. I mean, even in the parks, we sometimes say that, they're missing a lot from Walt Disney himself. People forget that this is one man.
His original vision, too, of what he had for the parks.
Yes. So I thought that was even good when you first walk in, how they get you started.
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to go through our top 5 elements, things that we saw at the exhibit that were our favorites, because we are definitely, I feel like we're not a ranking podcast, but we definitely do a lot of ranking in the podcast.
Because what happens is we end up saying, gee, I really like that, or maybe you didn't like something. And this one, I have to say, there wasn't,
there's nothing I disliked.
Except that it was a little chilly.
Oh, yeah, the rooms itself
The
were
room
cold.
was chilly. It was, and there weren't many people in it, so it was kind of chilly. Thing is, I cannot, after seeing this exhibit, I honestly can't come out and say, oh my God, I can't believe they did this or they did that, or, I walked out of it saying, I'm impressed.
Yeah, same. All right, so what is your number 5?
Oh, we're starting with the last one. Okay.
Yeah.
The Walt Disney quotes.
Yeah.
Because I thought that was impressive. When you're walking around, these walls have a lot of information on them. Lots of cases that have things in them, information. But if you really pay attention and you look up here and there, they have Walt Disney's
on
quotes
the walls themselves.
on the walls assigned by him in different sections that are appropriate for what he said. And then you get to the gift shop and they actually have a book of all his quotes. I mean, the man was very, very vocal about his vision, and he was very vocal about his ideas. So somebody actually did pay attention, and all his quotes are in this book at the end, but they are printed here and there. So as you're walking around, it kind of gives you the inspiration.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I did not take any photos of that, so sorry to anyone who's watching the YouTube version of this. That I have no photos of the quotes on the walls. I took more quotes of the items themselves. But that's a really good point, because again, I feel like it helps frame it, and I think it also is the nod to what Disney 100 is, what the celebration is. It's 100 years of Disney, and again, he's the person who started all of this. So I think, that's a lovely touch. In my number 5, I just clumped them all together, but the concept art for the parks in general. So there is a lot of concept art for the parks. You don't get to the park stuff until more towards the middle to the end of the exhibit, obviously because the parks came after all the animation and the movies. To me, again, we're a more parks-based podcast, but we do talk about everything Disney overall, and I would say my love for Disney is really rooted in the parks themselves. So seeing that original map that Walt Disney and his artist drew of what Disneyland was going to look like, so he could bring that map to the bank to be like, here's what it's going to look like, so you can give me the money so I can make this.
Because his quote was, bankers have no imagination.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I love seeing that map. That was absolutely amazing to see that. There's concept art for the Matterhorn, for Radiator Springs, for Frontierland, for the Jungle Cruise. There are a few actually for the Jungle Cruise. It's funny how much the Jungle Cruise is well loved by us, but also Walt's original vision too for the Jungle Cruise was to have live animals in it. Of course, that did not happen, but then we did get Kilimanjaro Safari in the year's future. So we did get the live animals eventually. But I loved seeing all of the concept art for sure. I thought it was really cool, especially honestly for Radiator Springs, because that's a more recent thing, of course, addition to Disneyland in California, and seeing that aerial view of what they thought Radiator Springs would look like in real life versus just what it actually looked like in the movie, I just thought was really cool to see. And I'll say too, when we went to Disneyland as well, I didn't know Radiator Springs existed until we walked into that land.
Got in there.
So seeing that, I remember for the first time a couple years ago now, I was so impressed and so amazed that this existed, because I just didn't know at the time that it existed. So if you ever get a chance to go to Disneyland and see Radiator Springs, I would definitely suggest it. Although, is it in Disneyland or is it in California Adventure Park? I think it's in California Adventure.
I think it's in the California Adventure Park, because that's where they had more room, I think, to put it.
Yeah,
but it's true, when you think about Radiator Springs, even me, I was like, causes, I'm kind of old for that. Okay, we'll go, because the kids want to go. Yes, it was impressive once you go and see it, because it does immerse you. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. All right, what is in your number 4?
My number 4 was the cartoons and the shorts that they had. They had some animation where you can actually see the cartoons and some of the original shorts, and they had listening devices. Small little microphones that pulled out, you just put them next to your ear on a rope. I thought that was really interesting, because it wasn't just seeing. You could actually walk through and listen to what was going on in the cartoons, like Steamboat Willie or the little skeletons that were one of the original
some of the original
things.
Cartoons.
They actually had the music that you could actually put to your ear and actually see it and hear it at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. So that was really cool too. They also had a room that it had a lot of the Disney music albums just on the wall. It was quite impressive to see, honestly. And they had 2 things, 2 screens that were in there too, again with those little headphone things that you can hold to your ear and like play the different music. And it was cool too because they also had songs in different languages. So for instance, of course, Disney is now translated to many different languages, and they had some of the albums on that wall in different languages. And I'm like, that's so cool to see actually that, you see the different album covers from all over the world.
Right.
So, all right, now I'm starting to get more specific. Everything in my list now is quite specific.
Okay.
So number 4 is Rey's lightsaber handle.
Oh, wow.
Which I realize
she's really basic. Amanda's more specific than me to begin
very
with.
Specific.
But
I'm pointing, and again, all of my things now are going to be quite specific. But yeah, I'm pointing this out because that was really cool to see. I wasn't expecting to see something, again, that specific in this exhibit overall. And if you've listened to other podcast episodes, you know I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I really love Rey. I love Daisy Ridley. So seeing that's amazing to be like, wow, she actually held that in her hand when they were filming these movies, and that was Rey's lightsaber, which is just amazing to see. And again, I'm looking forward to see where they're going to continue Rey's story in the future movies. I don't know when those movies will come out. We just heard, at the last one of the Disney, expos that they had, that they will be continuing Rey's story. So then it's like, will that lightsaber handle then be reused, in their future movies? Are they going to, take that one out of a museum, or are they going to make a new one? I'm sure they have multiples, that's not just one that they have on these sets. Yeah, that's just really, and then we're going to learn why her lightsaber, why her carbor, what's it called? The carbor crystal, why hers is yellow, because again, yellow is not, a very popular color for a lightsaber. We've only ever really seen them in Clone Wars before when the guards had them. So I don't know, it's just a lot of mystery to that. But I just thought that was really cool to see. Yeah, Rey's lightsaber handle is very exciting. So, all right, what is your number 3?
My number 3 was when you're walking around, there's music playing. I'm very into having music playing all the time. Like, I'm a person with noise. I don't like silence. I don't like things. But you don't realize that music is playing until all of a sudden a song comes up that catches your attention.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's a lot of music that
they had a lot of orchestrations playing Disney music.
Playing.
So.
Yeah, it's all orchestration music playing in the background. And, for somebody, I'm not familiar with every single song in all the different movies, and I don't remember a lot of them when you first hear them.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, one would catch your attention because you'd hear it and say, oh, wait a minute, that comes from this movie or that movie. And it's playing so subtly that I think it's really great that as you're walking around, it's like a subconscious thing.
It's a very lovely background music. One of my coworkers, I know he's told us recently that he likes to listen to the Disney lo-fi music, which I know my brother also listens to Disney lo-fi, where again, it's just the soft beats, the soft orchestra, just in the background of nice background
And that's
music.
what they were doing, and you don't even notice it's happening until all of a sudden it caught your attention. So I was very aware of that.
Yeah, no, I did like that as well, because again, I feel like that adds to the overall feel of the exhibit, which they did very well, which again is, if it alludes to the parks too, when you're in the parks, there's so many sights and sounds that are
there's always sounds
orchestrated.
playing, there's always something.
Specifically for you to feel a certain emotion that they're trying to get you to feel, often to try to get you to buy something as well, but
Yeah. And it was funny, until we actually talked about doing the podcast, it didn't even dawn on me until we started saying, oh, what do we like about the exhibit? And it's like, wow, I really noticed that while we were there.
Yeah, no, that's a good point too, because it does add to that overall ambiance to the exhibit. All right, so in my number 3, again, very specific, is Han Solo's Lucky Dice.
Oh, yes, you were very impressed with those. I didn't know what they were.
Yeah, when I saw them and I looked at the little tag to say this was the real ones that Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher had in A New Hope, I told my mom, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And my mom was like, what's those?
I knew they were dice on a chain.
Yeah, but again, just another cool Star Wars artifact that I was just not expecting to see such specific items like that at the museum, especially when you watch Solo and you kind of get the background to where the dice came from and everything. But yeah, just again, one of those really cool items that I really enjoyed seeing. They didn't really have too much in the Star Wars section because they had the dice, the Rey's lightsaber, they had one of the Porg puppets.
They had
which
my
are also
guy.
Quite cute. Yeah, they had.
Anybody who listens to these podcasts know that my Hollywood Studios best thing was who were they that came down the street?
Stormtroopers.
The stormtroopers that came down the street, and I thought they were the good guys in the white. They had one of him. I said, oh, look, my guy.
Yeah, one of the costumes for the stormtroopers was there. And that was all they really had, was that just a very small corner of Star Wars, but they really packed it in with some fun items. So it was really cool to see. And the Porg was really cute to see. The little
so
Porg
cute.
puppet. I didn't realize how small they were, how small the Porg puppets were. I thought they were a little bit bigger. And they also had a BB-8 model as well. So again, I'm sure they have lots of BB-8 models, but one of the BB-8 models. But in case you're listening, the Porg puppet is half this. It's a quarter of the size of BB-8. So if you know how big BB-8 is, Porgs are way smaller for some reason. Again, I thought they were bigger. I don't know. Maybe they made them bigger in the movies, but now I can't remember though. So I'd have to go look that up. But all right. So what is your number 2? Number 2.
Mine was the wall of posters you mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
When you get to the room,
the album.
I'm one of those people, I'm a little older, so I have lots of memories. And when you do those kind of things, that's what I miss in Hollywood Studios at the end of the movie ride, when you pulled into that room where they flash all the scenes from the movies.
Oh yeah, like the iconic scenes.
This
from the
reminded me
movies,
of that.
yeah.
These were all posters from all the movies that they had. Some of them were in foreign language, some of them were, in English. But that's where Amanda was mentioning where they have earphones where they actually play all the theme songs for all the movies. You can actually pick the movie you want to listen to and put the headphones on and you can listen to the movies. And I could just stand there, like it was 3 walls worth of posters. And not all of them were there, but at the same time, you're looking at some of these that you forgot about. Some of the movies
for
that I
sure.
said, oh my God, I watched that when I was a kid. Or
just like
we
the
watched that
soundtracks to
together.
movies that maybe doesn't have like music, but it's just like the sound, like the background of those movies, which is really cool.
Right.
So.
So I said, oh my God, I could stand here for like an hour just absolutely looking at that wall and just getting the memories of all the different movies.
Yeah, for sure. And like going through each one and be like, oh yeah, I remember this movie. And then also like looking for your favorite ones too.
Yes.
That kind of reminds me of there's another room that was the timeline room as well, that they had the full timeline of like when it started in the 1920s, what came out in the 1920s, what came out in the 1930s, all the way up until the 2020s, what we're currently in. And that kind of had the similar vibes of like, all the past memories and the major moments that happened. I would say I didn't have the timeline room on my list, but I would say that's definitely an honorable mention of that timeline room.
And that's like I said, for every age, that's
a
a different thing, because I remember seeing my first movie was Bambi that I saw when I was a kid. So, you remember seeing your first movie and you realize how long some of those movies were out before I even saw them.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, that was like some of the movies that came out in the 1940s. They still played in the 1960s and 70s. But
and then you have to remember that Disney did pull some of these movies and then re-release them. So some of the movies were pulled so that nobody saw them for years, and then they're re-released. So even though they seemed like a new movie, they really weren't a new movie.
Yeah, for sure. Also, again, sorry if you hear any background noise from the outside world. We just have the door open because it's nice to have the door open, but there is some construction going on outside. So pardon the construction, but it's almost like you're here in the room with us.
Listening to the construction all day.
Yes, hearing the room, hearing the oven on because I'm making my lunch right now. So if you hear the oven whirring, that's the other background noise
This
here.
is just a casual, normal podcast.
Yeah. All right, so for my number 2, again, a very specific item. A lot of people have been talking about this on Instagram, but it is the original draft of Walt writing the iconic line that's in Disneyland: "Here you leave today and visit the world of yesterday, tomorrow, and fantasy." And again, that is such an iconic quote from Walt Disney. And to see that, sorry, I just opened up my photos to try to pull up the photo again. And there's this really funny photo of Morocco. That was the first photo that came up. I will put that photo on the podcast too right now so you can see it. But yeah, a really funny photo of my cat just popped up. All right, so I'm just pulling up the draft right now. But it was so cool. So it's literally dated June 22nd, 1955. So before either me or my mom were born, which is wild. It says subject, I don't even know what that says. Bronze plaque, dimensions. They don't have the dimensions yet. Location, entrance to Disneyland. 13 words is what it says. So they wanted 13 words. And then they had Disneyland above the plaque at first, but that was crossed out. The original quote had read, "Where you leave today, ... and visit the world of yesterday and tomorrow." And then Walt had, scripted it out and just said, what we know the quote to be now. He also kind of has on here sign over entrance, and kind of has like the tunnel that you kind of walk into of the main gate, which is exactly where this is. I'll also put a photo up of what it looks like in Disneyland. I actually have a photo of it from when we went to Disneyland a few years ago. And then we sort of have the little dimensions. It's 3x4 and, some other like little drawings that he kind of has here, just kind of, and then at the bottom it says, "This plaque is not ready for opening," which is so funny. That's kind of scribbled out, crossed out and everything like that. But yeah, just to see something like this, like again, one of those iconic lines, iconic pieces, was just so cool to see. And I had seen, again, people on Instagram kind of talking about it and posting it online, and I wasn't sure where they were seeing it at first. Like I didn't really realize that it was at the exhibit. So when I saw it, I was so amazed to see it because I wasn't expecting to see this very specific item either. But I'm really glad we got to see it though. So, all right. And then we are our number 1 now. So what is your number 1?
Mine was the props and the costumes.
Yeah.
It was not overloaded with props and costumes.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't overloaded.
In each part of the exhibit, there was something to look at, some prop or something to look at that came from one of the movies or one of the parks or one of the things. I mean, they actually had the boats that you fly in for Peter Pan.
Yeah,
they actually had one
ships,
of the bobsled pieces. They had,
one of the bobsleds for the
They had
Matterhorn.
props that were in the movies. They had a Winnie the Pooh. But my favorite was the glass slipper from Cinderella. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful, amazing to look at. I love shoes, so that was something. I love high heel shoes, and that's what it was. But that was amazing. And even the Marvel stuff, which I'm not a Marvel fan. I've watched a couple of Marvel movies. I'll put up with them if I have to, but not a big fan. And the best one was all the headpieces.
Yeah, they had like all like the iconic helmets, like the silhouettes.
Amanda said to me, can you name them? And I'm like, oh no, probably not. But then as we went around them, I said, oh, wait a minute. I know that one. I know that one. I know that one. So they were just so iconic that it did catch your attention.
Yeah, especially like to the helmets as well, just like the shapes of them. Again, those silhouettes, like Loki's silhouette is, everyone knows.
As soon as she said Loki, I said, wait a minute, I know him. I know, because I've seen the Thor movies. I've seen certain things.
Yeah, the two that she definitely did not know was the Wasp from Ant-Man.
Right, and I've seen the Wasp. I just didn't place it.
And she didn't know.
I've seen the
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man
The other
movies.
one was Star-Lord, Peter Quill.
That one I didn't know.
That one's Guardians of the Galaxy. So when I said that, she
that one I would know it all. But the other ones, if I actually stopped to say, wait a minute, I can do it, I probably would have come up with it. But when I first said, oh no, I don't know Marvel, But I have to say, they did have a smattering of things in the exhibit that it wasn't overloaded. Like you said, even the dress that Cruella wore, it wasn't overloaded with stuff, but there was enough there to catch your attention to say, wow, that was used in a movie, or yes, I remember that, or the prop, or something like, you said, oh my God, that's the actual saber. It was things that as you walk through, I thought they were well placed, well documented, and had a nice flow.
Yeah, for sure. I love seeing stuff that they actually use in the movies because it's so interesting to see what it actually was. Like, and again, a lot of just not a lot of, but overall it was a lot. If you think about it, if you combine all of the
if you put it all together,
costumes,
because it is a long exhibit. I mean, we were in there, I think, over an hour and a half.
Yeah, an hour.
Normally,
when
an exhibit like that's in a museum, you go through that exhibit in a little bit of time, and then you have the rest of the museum. When we got out of that exhibit, we realized how long we were in there because we did take the time to look at every item,
to read
the things. I mean, you can zip through it if you really wanted to, but why? I mean, this is what you're there for. You're there to see exactly what went on and to marvel at the things that he did.
And they also had some of the Broadway pieces as well. So, for instance, they had the puppet of Olaf from Frozen when it was on Broadway. They had one of the costumes of Mufasa, which is also currently on Broadway still, and also doing a national tour at the moment. I think it's also going to the West End too, I believe, as well. So, but that was really amazing to see as well. I just recently saw The Lion King in January with my partner before we had the podcast, or else we probably would have done a podcast episode about it.
Yeah, we saw it when you were young. Yes, years ago when it first opened.
But that was really cool too. I did theater all growing up, so theater has a close home to my heart. So that was really awesome to see. I never did get to see Frozen on Broadway, so it was cool to see a little Olaf puppet there. It's like, this is where he ended up.
No, they did. They picked a lot of really nice, appropriate things.
Yeah, for sure. A good little smattering of different items. And that brings me to my number one, which is the Cinderella's glass slipper from the 2015 live action movie. The first live action they did of all the live actions for the most part. Yeah, that was my absolute favorite thing to see. I know we've sort of talked about it a little bit before, but out of the live actions, and we may do a whole podcast episode on this, I'm not sure, but the Cinderella live action is my favorite live action movie.
I haven't seen it
for sure. Yeah, she hasn't seen it. So that's why when I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, like, is that, I don't know if it was the slipper she actually wore or if it's just a prop slipper. It looks like it would just be a prop one. I'm not sure where you're.
It's all glass.
Yeah, not sure where the toes would be going in that.
Glass. I mean, it is. I don't know how to get a foot in there, but it was beautiful.
It was so beautiful, so lovely to see, especially with like the little butterfly brooch that's on it as well. Just encapsulates a lot of that magic and that loveliness that you see in the Cinderella live action movie. And again, I love the Cinderella live action movie. I've rewatched it many a times. I have the DVD. I actually bought the DVD because I thought it was going to a vault soon, so I was nervous that I'd never be able to see it again. So I went on DVD and Blu-ray. I think I have a digital copy too of it somewhere, just because I want to make sure I can always access it if I ever want to watch it again. It's definitely a comfort movie for me. So seeing that specifically was so exciting and so cool to see. And they had a lot of other props and things. Like my mom mentioned, they had one of the Winnie the Pooh stand-ins from Christopher Robin that came out a few years ago. They also had Lumiere and Cogsworth from the live action Beauty and the Beast. So some of those like stand-in type pieces, which is really cool to see. I know those pieces exist elsewhere because I know there's like replicas of certain of those props.
Well, they have to have more than one.
Yeah, I think on the Disney Wish, I think it is. I think there's a room that's like Beauty and the Beast themed, and they have the little characters in that room. I don't know if it's on the Disney Wish or one of the other ships, but it's on one of the cruise ships though, for sure.
Like I said, there was a smattering of them all the way through, and they just popped up different places that you just look at them and say, oh yeah, that was there, or I forgot about that, or like I said, I have nothing bad to say about this exhibit. I thought they did a great job.
Like they had one of the dolls from It's a Small World, which is really cool to see. Oh yeah,
that's my favorite.
Yeah, they had one of the devils from Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, which is so funny because out of context, you're like, why is this here? It's like because you literally go through hell in Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
ride.
And that is a children's ride.
Yes, it was a
which is so
scary
funny.
ride. I mean, it was,
Yeah, but it was really great to see. And yeah, again, overall, we both really enjoyed the exhibit. I definitely recommend going if you get the chance to go. If you don't, I'm sure, again, there's lots of other reviews, videos, and, photographs of these items. Also, again, this exhibit is only temporary. Again, it's going to be closing on August 27th, 2023. So all these items are going to go somewhere afterwards. So
I'm sure they'll do something with
yeah,
them.
whether they go to another museum elsewhere, whether there's another pop-up exhibit elsewhere, I'm sure, there'll be definitely plenty of other time to see some of these items for sure. So that's really cool as well.
Give it an overall thumbs up.
I guess we'll do like 5 out of 5 stars. So
Yeah, definitely.
5 out of 5 stars. So anything else you want to add?
No, I think, like I said, I think I gave my opinion.
No, for sure.
Very good. No, very impressed.
All right, we will transition into some Disney news now. So some of this Disney news is a bit outdated because this is a pre-recorded podcast, so I do apologize about that. But there have recently been some new merchandise in the parks, including these really cute Figment ears. They're probably the cutest Figment ears I've seen so far. There's also Disney 100 Javiana flip-flops with lots of different fun little designs. I do have Javiana flip-flops as well. I don't have Disney ones, I just have general ones, but they were very cute. Also, last weekend, so again, I know this podcast is coming out on July 3rd, so last week on June 30th, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny has now premiered. So if you want to go see Indiana Jones, the new Indiana Jones movie is now out. I don't think we'll be doing a review on the Indiana Jones movie. Neither of us are big Indiana Jones fans. And if we did do a review, it'd be very basic because I don't remember all the movies, if I'm being honest.
I've seen all
them,
the movies.
I've seen them, but long time ago.
I've only seen the first one.
I remember them being scary because I watched them when I was pretty young, so I thought they were kind of a bit scary.
They're
I
creepy.
remember.
They had lots of bugs and snakes and things, and so I watched the first one and said, "No, I'm done."
But to celebrate the Indiana Jones movie coming out, currently the Indiana Jones Den of Destiny now opened in Hollywood studios for a limited time. So it's just a limited time beverage type of
Oh,
stand.
I didn't realize it was only limited. I thought that was a.
No, I think it's, well, it said online it was limited. Maybe they're going to make it permanent. Maybe if it's successful, I'm not sure. But it features 3 unique drinks that are Indiana Jones themed. The first, which is non-alcoholic, is L'Atlantique green tea for $6.25. It is a pomegranate green tea, blood orange, lemon juice, and agave nectar. The next is the Adventures Margarita, which is $13.50. And it has Corazon Blanco tequila, passion fruit papaya, green tea, cucumber lime, and agave nectar. And then the third drink is the Weathered Fedora for $14.50. And it is an Old Forester Kentucky Straight Bourbon, sweet vermouth, vanilla, Hella Cocktail Co. ginger bitters, star anise, cinnamon, and nutmeg served over an ice sphere. So yeah, so if you're interested in any of those 2 cocktails, one, non-alcoholic cocktail, to celebrate the Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny, definitely go check that out in Hollywood studios. They sound super yummy. I'm not a big drinker, so I probably would get the non-alcoholic one if I was getting anything. Although, again, I don't even normally drink non-alcoholic drinks. I'm more of like a water person. Very boring. So, and the last little bit of Disney news is that the Red River Hog Piglet, who was born at Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge on Mother's Day, he has now been named. So his name is now Walter. So you can
Walter.
Yeah, so you can go see Walter on the Penn Bay Savannah at Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge. So I'm excited because when we go in December, we're spending one day in Animal Kingdom Lodge. So when we go, maybe we'll be able to see Walter. Although by the time we see Walter, he's going to be
big.
I was gonna say he's going to be like an adult pig.
December is going to be big.
Yeah, I don't know how fast pigs grow, but I don't
know.
I think they don't grow that quickly over the course. I don't know. I guess it's like cats and
We'll have to
dogs.
keep our eye out.
He still may be little, but the photos are very cute. I'll throw up a photo right now too if you're watching on the YouTube on the YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, yeah, I'll throw up a photo of Walter and his mother cuddling away. Very cute.
Yeah, this is really cute.
All right, so now we can transition into some Disney birthdays. So I know last week we mentioned on July 1st was Indiana Jones's birthday, but I thought I'd mention it again since we just talked about the Indiana Jones like little beverage, pop up. So yeah, happy birthday to Indiana Jones on July 1st. And then we have 3 Marvel characters who are celebrating their birthdays. So of course, again, tomorrow, or as of recording this, and when it's coming up, tomorrow is July 4th. So again, happy Independence Day. And also a happy birthday to Steve Rogers, who is Captain America on July 4th, which makes sense, kind of funny. But also Nick Fury's birthday is also on July 4th. So it's kind of funny. They have 2 major Marvel characters with the same birthday, but I don't know, kind of interesting. I don't really know all the lore behind it, but again, I get these birthdays off Disney Birthdays Wiki. So that's kind of where I'm pulling this information from. And another Marvel character, Phil Coulson's birthday is on July 8th. So yeah, happy birthday to Steve Rogers, Nick Fury, and Phil Coulson. So yeah, fun birthdays. And that brings us then into our final segment of the podcast, our Disney memory. So do you have any Disney memories coming off the top of your head?
No, the Disney memory from, like I said, my main memories just floated through my head when we were in the exhibit.
Yeah.
I think the memories is just a floating of memories. And like I said, sometimes when you ask me that question, I get overwhelmed because there are so many memories.
Yeah.
You make so many memories and do so many things that pop into your head just from listening to music or seeing a picture or thinking of the parks. And that's my memory. My memory is all those wonderful times sitting and watching the movies or the sing-along videos or anything that we did connected to
Yeah, for sure.
to Disney.
Yeah, so I'll do a more specific memory. I'll try to. Just more of a short story. My only, not gripe about the exhibit, but my only note about the exhibit was that Mulan was very underrepresented. Mulan was not really in the exhibit at all. I don't say that to complain because they are so much packed into that. I mean, of course, they're not going to fit every character, every movie, every little thing into this exhibit. So I don't blame them for that. But there was only one clay sculpture of Mulan that was in the exhibit. I'll put that on, again, if you're watching on YouTube, I'll have that little sculpture on screen. But yeah, even in the music section, she wasn't even in the music section. But one of my earliest memories of my entire life is watching Mulan with my dad in where we first lived in Pennsylvania, So yeah, that's one of my earliest memories is watching Mulan with my dad, actually. And again, to this day, I still rewatch the cartoon Mulan, the live action Mulan, all different versions now of Mulan. I don't usually rewatch Mulan 2. I will say I usually just watch the first one. Not that the second one's bad. The second one's actually not that bad, but yeah, definitely more of a fan of the first one. But yeah, that's a memory I had. And when we were walking around too, I did think about that. I was like, oh yeah, it's like I remember, again, one of my earliest memories is watching Mulan with my dad, which is kind of cool. So yeah, thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast, our little review of the Disney 100 exhibit. Make sure you follow us on social media. Right now we are Spaceship Earth Design across all social platforms, but if that changes in the future, because we may be rebranding one day in the future, everything will always be linked in the description. Make sure to give us 5 stars if you think we are worthy of 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you are currently listening, or give us a thumbs up on YouTube if you're currently watching on YouTube. You can listen to the Mother-Daughter Disney podcast on all platforms that podcasts are available to listen to. If we are not on your preferred podcast platform, make sure to send us a DM on Instagram so I can make sure that we are on that platform, because we should be everywhere. But again, I don't listen to podcasts on all platforms myself, so not really 100% sure there. But and let us know if you'll be visiting the Disney 100 exhibit. Have you ever been to one of the Disney history museums before, either the one in California or maybe one of the Disney history exhibits that have been in Hollywood studios in the past, and what you thought of them? What are some of your favorite Disney history little tidbits and trivia things? So I would love to hear it. You can definitely send us on our latest Instagram post. I will have it pinned on our Instagram for the week that the podcast comes out, but we always have a dedicated Instagram post for every single podcast episode with the title on the actual post itself. And again, if you're on YouTube, leave us a comment below and let us know what you thought. So yeah, thanks so much for listening, everyone, and have a great 4th of July to all who celebrate 4th of July.
Yes. Bye-bye.
All right, we'll see you soon.